We're now in the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution, which is bringing together digital, physical, and biological systems.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
And eventually AI won't just model the low level what the shape is, but it'll model the cell and the organ and the organism.
If you have enough data about me and enough computing power and biological knowledge, you can hack my body, my brain, my life. You can reach a point when you know me better than I know myself.
We will come to accept entities that are not biological as conscious. But it's not going to be, okay, machines on the right side of the room, humans on the left. If you talk to a biological human, they will have lots of non-biological processes going on in their body and brain. Those computers will be out in the cloud, so the thinking of that, quote, person isn't even just in their body and brain, even in the non-biological portion. It's out on the cloud. So it's going to be all mixed up. There's not going to be a clear distinction between human and machine. The bottom line is we are one human-machine civilization.
It will not only change how we communicate, how we produce, how we consume, it will change actually us, our own identity.
Not growing the virus at all, but just getting the sequences, getting the appropriate protein and sticking it on a self-assembling nanoparticle that is much, much more immunogenic.
Injecting robots into a human's bloodstream sounds terrifying. But what if I told you science has developed so far that they are actually doing it on purpose?
Making the mRNA is really easy and really cheap, and that's the magic of this thing. We just need to mess around. There's a lot of lipid nanoparticles, and some are very self-assembling.
Let's take a look at a 2013 presentation delivered by Israeli scientist Dr. Ido Bachelet from Bar Ilan University, boasting about the development of programmable nanorobots thanks to the funding of Pfizer.
So this syringe has inside it 1,000 billion robots. So these robots are each 50 nanometers. 50 nanometers is about 2,000 times thinner than the thickness of your hair.
Species Homo sapiens, if we survive, will probably have so much power that we will change ourselves using various technologies so that our descendants will no longer be Homo sapiens like us.
Emotionally, it is easy to dismiss the work of Dr. Anna Maria Mihalcea, for it is very disturbing. But her work is shown through scientific testing and backed up by government and NGO documentation. And the evidence shows that humanity has already been infected with cutting-edge surveillance nanotechnology. She also points out the important fact that the elastomers being fabricated by DuPont for this soft robot technology are made of the exact same chemicals found when analyzing the messagens, a compound that displays liquid crystal properties, found in targeted individuals. And they appear to be the same compounds she found in the blood of the vaxxed, as well as the blood of the unvaxxed. The building blocks of hydrogels are being found in the COVID vaccine, and hydrogels are being found in the blood of both the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. They are the so-called blood clots that are being found around the world. And these hydrogels can now be programmed, encrypted, and decrypted. And it's spreading. Evidence shows that the vaxxed are shedding this to the unvaxxed. A review by the RAND Corporation, Brain-Computer Interfaces, U.S. Military Applications and Implications, discuss the convergence of human with machine. In an interview with Big Pharma whistleblower Karen Kingston, Kingston discusses this self-assembly nanotechnology and how the spike protein is an engineered device, triggered by electromagnetic frequency, and how the quantum dots are gene editing technology. This nanotechnology appears to be distributed via chemtrails, the food and water supply, medications, and in all of the scheduled vaccines for children.
These transhumanists who have literally a satanic hate for humanity, the creation of God, want to digitize every cell on Earth, every microbe, and track it as well as, again, upload it into what's called the metaverse. I am a certified chelation practitioner, and the amount of metals that I'm pulling out of people is extraordinary. So we have been systematically poisoned, but not just us, but all life forms on Earth. The rain is filled with this poison. The trees are sucking it up into their root system. So their agenda ultimately is, number one, to fuse biology with technology. The ultimate end result is that machines will take over all biology. This is an evolutionary step that we must fight at all costs, for they want to exterminate all natural humans. When you synthetically alter the human DNA that has a very specific vibratory frequency, that is also frequency specific with all of nature, we are all interconnected with the oneness of creation. That harmony is being disturbed and is out of sync when we are fusing with technology. So they're creating literally a Borg hive mind in which there are no free thinkers, there is no free will, you're just simply following the program. So we all must stand up and insist that the creation of God and the diversity of our biosphere is so beautiful, so evolutionary, magnificent. I have seen the same blood changes of these filamental self-assembling structures that are literally replacing the blood and are using the blood as a substrate to create these blood clots. And I've seen extraordinary blood clots in the unvaccinated as well. This movement is really about the final destruction of the divine human being, and we must resist at all costs. At this point, this is a fight for our survival, and I believe that denial kills people. If they're not aware of this and they don't want to do anything about it, they don't want to hear it, they have this stuff growing in them like a cancer, and eventually they will succumb to it. Hello, welcome to this episode of True Science and Spirit. I am here with my colleagues and friends from Targeted Justice, the attorney Anna Toledo and Richard Lighthouse. And I am so excited to discuss, all of the changes that have been happening and what it really means to the world, not just to the targeted community. And so welcome you two, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on, Anna. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, we're very excited about some of these new developments. I'm glad to talk about it today.
Thank you for having us. There is so much to share, and I think so much to rejoice, looking towards the future of a freedom future for us.
That's amazing. And, I really think from your perspective to explain what is the meaning of what's been happening in this past week with all of these executive orders, that would be really wonderful because I don't think that many people grasp the importance of it all and why there should be, hope to rejoice, particularly also for the targeted community. Can you explain a bit more about that?
If you can start, with I made a very short presentation with some of the text from the executive orders. I hope Richard can help us in this discussion because he has been in this for a longer time. And, one of the things that I want your audience, both, you and I, we have a lot of reasons to be pessimistic, particularly, you are constantly studying about all this nanotechnology and all of these AI and all this, these horrible things. And I think it's sometimes very hard to be positive about what's coming on, right? I don't know how you do it. But certainly on Monday, when President Trump signed these executive orders, I was having tears of joy because I can see down the line what they translate to. So if we can start with the first one.
Are you able to see it okay?
Yes, absolutely. Go for the next. Well, I titled it The Golden Age because, whether you agree or not agree with Trump's vision of his golden age, the truth is that it's good for targeted individuals. And like I once heard Richard said, I am a one-issue voter. I want to end this program. And I think that President Trump is going to help us end it. Not just him, but the dream team that he has around him with Tulsi Gabbard, with RFK, and particularly with Kash Patel. So, and I'm going to talk about him a little later. So we are crossing our fingers that his nominations go through. We already know that on this day that we're recording this, Pete Hegseth just took away the security clearance and the security detail from General Milley. And that's huge, because it's a step in a very good direction. It takes courage, and he's doing what he needed to do. And Kristi Noem from DHS is out on the streets doing her interventions, and that indicates it's a little bit of the foreshadowing that Rand Paul said when he was going to interrogate her on the day of her confirmation, saying this agency has gone rogue, has lost its north, and instead of protecting the nation, the homeland, from outside threats, they are turning inside and persecuting our own people. He's very well aware of the gang stalking program, which the policies are implemented and it's funded by DHS. So that's great news that we know that it's going to change. Now,
wow.
Regarding the executive orders, the first, there's a huge list, and it's an ever-growing list, and that's the link to them, the presidential actions. And I'm only going to talk about 2 or 3 and mention because it's just so much. But so let's go to the next one, which is they created DOJ, and this many of these executive orders are going to find legal challenges. I know that they're already filing challenges against them, but it is my hope that judges are focused on the fact that this man was elected by more than half of the people, of the voters, and judges are not here to change the will of the people. For example, last week we had the amazing decision by a district court in New York holding Section 702 of the FISA Act unconstitutional. And that is huge for targeted individuals because when it expires in April 15th, I don't think it'll get, first of all, I don't think DOJ is going to appeal that. And number 2, it's not going to get renewed. And we know that is how they hack us, and they listen to us, and they're constantly, harassing with our internet. So the DOJ is going to take away the unnecessary spending. Just today, the press secretary of President Trump was announcing that they were canceling a $50 million grant to Palestine for the purchases of condoms. I'm not kidding you. That this DOJ just discovered this, okay? And $37 million were going to the World, the health organization that Trump had just made the decision to withdraw from. So there's $87 million that are going to be saved thanks to this government, Department of Government Waste, it's going to reduce waste and it's going to go for efficiency. I think that these are the members of the subcommittee, and we really need to write to them. The community. I'm going to be talking about that in the future, because here's the thing: these people need to know that the programs of organized stalking have got to be defunded. They are unconstitutional. They are a violation of the 4th Amendment, and they are targeting innocent Americans. So that is one of the huge things. If we can get DOJ to defund and DHS to defund the gang stacking programs, that is a huge win.
Let me just ask you real quick. First of all, are there actually officially funded programs for gang stalking? And what exactly did the FISA decision have to do with the targeting? For us non-lawyers, can you just explain that a little bit?
Okay, I'm going to let Lighthouse talk about, because he knows so much more about the Fusion Center and the structure on how, because they give grants for a lot of things that are so improper. Regarding the FISA, the unconstitutionality, basically the court held that it did not pass the Fourth Amendment muster, which is that when an agent makes an application to an Article 3 court, they have to put in an affidavit elements that constitute probable cause of a crime in order to be able to do surveillance, electronic surveillance on that person. That is not the case with the FISA court. As somebody was saying, in the FISA court, there's only a prosecutor. The person is not notified. There is no public defender. So it's basically just give me this, and the judge signs on it, because most of the time they withhold exculpatory information. And the reason I know that is because I was reading Kash Patel's book, Government Gangsters, which I highly recommended, where he very much explains it. Now, when you talk about the 200,000, and Richard can correct me if I'm wrong, but there were the FBI admitted to 200,000 warrantless surveillance, from applications from the FISA court. So what that translates to is it's the targeted individuals, because through these warrants is that they can do the hacking on all of our accounts in order to do the investigation on your friends, on your family, destroy your files. I have, one of our volunteers, her work gets destroyed at the end of the day. Everything she worked on, they erase it. So the purpose of these FISA warrants is really not to keep safe our nation, because if that was the reason, they could go to an Article 3 court and convince the court, this is a dangerous person because of this, and this, please give me a warrant. No, that doesn't happen. The purpose is to stalk, do surveillance, illegal surveillance, harass on people that don't even have a clue that they are being surveilled. And the worst part of it is that the statute doesn't give you ever a right to even find out about it or to challenge it. You have no standing. So you are hand-tied, and they're doing these abuses of your Fourth Amendment and your violation of your privacy that are just absolutely outrageous. And I think that judge in the district court in New York, I think he was, I don't know if it was a she or he, was encouraged by, by the wave of freedom oncoming to many of us. And so I think that's why he took that courageous step to declare it, because there had been many, many attempts. And make no mistake, the FISA section 702, and Richard, I want him to expand on this, was created in 2008 under Barack Obama to facilitate the targeting program. Richard, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think Anna's trying to summarize it. It's a complex issue because they're spending so much time covering up what your constitutional rights are. The U.S. Constitution guarantees you the right of redress for grievances. Well, if the court won't even admit that your name is on a list or confirm that they're doing these secret warrants behind your back, how can you possibly have a right for redress? So it's a fundamental violation of our constitutional rights that all this is done secretly and covertly. And I sincerely hope that this ruling by this court stands, because it could go a long way to shut down a lot of this stuff that's happening through InfraGard and the fusion centers. One of the tricks that we found over the years that they use is, for example, they'll have someone who lives in Iran or Syria, a country that we're clearly having conflict with. They'll have someone from those countries try to contact you via email or phone. Well, that re-triggers your FISA warrant for an additional 60 or 90 days, simply because somebody you have no idea who they are tried to contact you from one of these countries. Now you get an additional 60 or 90 days added to your FISA warrant. And this is they play these games all the time. And the thing is, the contact wasn't even real. It was spoofed. They'll get into their email accounts and spoof the email to make it look like this person is trying to communicate with you. All of it's done fraudulently, all done to justify extension to an illegal FISA warrant.
The worst part is that the judges in the FISA court, I am sure they have seen Richard's probably 20 applications for Richard Lighthouse, or and the same for me. And they don't bother to say, wait a minute, haven't you renewed the warrant on this person 10 times and you still haven't arrested her? That's the kind of thing that these are judges from district courts. These are not just, for this. No. They're chosen from district courts, and some of them actually have to live, I think it's 3 of them have to live within, I don't know how many miles, so they can come in an emergency to the court. So I think that's one of the things that without Section 702, the program falls apart. Richard, I don't know if you agree with me, but a great deal of it just falls apart.
Yes, I think it will make it very difficult for them to continue to operate. The fusion centers are dependent upon this covert information, the SARS or suspicious activity reports that are falsely generated to justify extensions to your FISA warrant. All of it's fraudulently created. One of the, I think the senator from Oklahoma, Senator Cotton, made it very clear in one of the summaries that he said about these fusion centers. He said they're just trampling on citizens' rights. The vast majority of the fusion centers can't find a single thing related to terrorism. They had examples where they were following around someone who stole a pair of shoes and claiming that it's an act of terrorism. And they followed this person for months. It's completely fabricated. It's a joke.
Okay, so we think that the Department of Government Efficiency is going to be very good at detecting the misuse of money to trample on Americans' rights, and that's why we welcome it.
Fantastic. Wow. Let me just ask one more question. I have some targeted individuals that says that their children are also targeted. How do you get a FISA warrant on a child?
Well, the warrant is to listen in and to track where you are and to track your phone and to do, it's basically to be able to facilitate the chasing you around, because as you know, we're all being tracked by the Space Force, but as I have learned from Richard, because of the security clearances, the Space Force guy doesn't tell the fusion center guy, look, you can go get her and she's at the Taco Bell. You see what I mean? So they need the warrants in order to use your devices and your electronics and everything to carry out a lot of the things that they do, whether it is extract, for example, one of the things they do is they take your documents from your computer and put a little icon there that you think the document is there, but when you're going to click on it, it's empty. So it's basically to steal from you your work product, so that it takes you forever to do anything. Okay, so that's one of the things. Now, the targeting of children, as we know right now, is performed by the Space Force. through, and tomorrow we're having a space. We welcome you to join in because Dr. Len Bear is going to be there. We have figured out that children, probably younger than 3, but at the age of 3, are being attacked with microwave auditory effect. And so we're going to have 2 parents of children with V2K and Dr. Len Bear talking about brain structures in children and how it cannot be psychosis because they don't have the brain structures to develop that kind of illness. So it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, children are getting there's, I don't think that the FISA, Richard might correct me if I'm wrong, the FISA mechanism is to target the parents, like the adults, not necessarily the child.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
what I believe. Yeah, so let's go to the next one.
One second. Okay.
Okay, so this is, I think, the most important of all of his executive orders, ending the weaponization of the federal government. You might remember that Jim Jordan made, for months and months, he had a committee of the weaponization of government, and it didn't amount to much. But let's go to the next slide. This one, he states it is the policy of the United States to identify and take appropriate action to correct past misconduct by the federal government related to the weaponization of law enforcement and the weaponization of the intelligence community. That is basically the targeting program. And even though in the next section, you can go for the next section, it sort of limits it for the investigation for 4 years, but the Attorney General has to carry out an investigation it says that for the past 4 years, but when they investigate the CIA, for example, and the FBI, it's going to go back at the very least, although Richard believes it's from 1992, I think he can tell you about it, but at least this program, as it is said, it began with the terrorist screening database in 2004. So it's not like they're not going to go back and look at it. And so they have to investigate, identify any instances where a department's or agency's conduct appears to have been contrary to the purposes and policies of this order, which I just read. And that is huge.
Wow.
That is huge. We've never seen anything like that.
Richard, what do you say about this?
Well, I think it's key. What they're going to come up with is all of these complaints and lawsuits that have been filed and inappropriate responses by the Department of Justice, and they're not going to be able to walk away from it. They're going to have to ask who ordered this and where did this come from, and it's going to take them back years and years, and it's going to tie in with the illegal FISA activity. It's going to lead to many rabbit holes, and all of those rabbit holes lead back to the CIA. I once posted a statement that all roads of, you remember the old saying, all roads lead to Rome. Well, in this case, all roads of government corruption lead back to the CIA, and that's exactly where they're going to find it.
Wow, that's fantastic news.
I know. It's like, and I know that many people have been suffering for so many years, but this is one time to rejoice. And even if you don't like Donald Trump, but you're targeted, it is a time to rejoice because the outlook is very positive. So let's go to the next one. Okay, here, Director of National Intelligence. Well, you know that the nominated person is Tulsi Gabbard, whom I absolutely love, and she happens to be targeted. She was placed on the terrorist screening database, and a marshal, a U.S. Air Marshal, admitted publicly, a whistleblower, that they had marshals chasing her and her husband around when she was flying. So it's, I don't know if you remember that, but that was like a huge scandal. So she knows firsthand what is the abuse by the activities of the intelligence community, and the instances where the intelligence community's conduct appears to have been contrary to the purposes and policies of this order. One of the things that is inevitably gonna take her here is into, I believe, and the reason I know this is because in the next slide you're going to see it, and it's because you know, it is a known fact among them that MK Ultra never died. It never ended, and that is one of the aspects that's why I think that's why President Trump emphasizes the intelligence community. Notice he doesn't just limit it to, for example, FBI abuse or DEA abuse, or no, he's talking about he's very specific about the intelligence community. We're talking NSA, CIA, FBI, the real bad actors here. Let's go for the next one.
So it is known that MK Ultra didn't end. They're all claiming that it ended in 1973, that all the files were burned. I mean, that's everywhere. Is there any indication that has become public, that it never ended? I have several, people that see me who are, they verify that they're still in the MK Ultra program to date. And that their dream state is being hacked, and that they're basically being trafficked. So I think that's a very interesting piece of information.
Well, they just morphed it because, see, and Richard, he knows so much more than me, so I am open to him correcting anything I say that it's not accurate. But this slide here is Kash Patel wrote this book. And I was just so delighted when that's my book. You see, that's why it's so messy. But I was so delighted when he says, defenders of transparency and of the people in the House and Senate should immediately form a committee to thoroughly investigate abuses within the intelligence community, modeled after the 1975 Church Committee. The Church Committee in the House and the Pike Committee in the Senate reviewed abuses at the CIA, FBI, NSA, and other agencies, uncovering scandal after scandal committed by the deep state. This included revealing the existence of MK Ultra. So the reason why I just absolutely love this is because Mr. Patel was highly involved in the Russia hoax Steele dossier on uncovering, which was all with the FISA court and the Steele dossier. So he is very knowledgeable about the abuses of the intelligence committee. And I think that it is his work that prompted the executive order that we just discussed. So it doesn't come out in a void. It doesn't, he just didn't pull it out of his sleeve. This is very well thought out, and this man really knows what he's talking about. So, Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, because the thing is, the unacknowledged special access program of the targeted individuals incorporated the aspect of the FBI's very illegal COINTELPRO, which was the Stasi part, the spying part, the surveillance part against anybody who was a dissident, an activist, an organizer. And so MK Ultra only had to do with mind control and experimentation and drug manipulation of people. Am I correct in that, Richard?
Yes. So what we see is that MK Ultra was never shut down. The COINTELPRO was actually a part of that experiment. Excuse me. And what we see now is it's placed in what's called an unacknowledged special access program, and we see and we've distributed a newsletter with a diagram showing that there's a code name Ultra for what we believe is the resurgence of the MK Ultra program, and it's a level 35 a top secret unacknowledged special access program. So out of 38 levels, the MK Ultra program was reborn at level 35, meaning even the President of the United States and members of Congress were not allowed to know about it. It's that highly classified.
Wow.
Now let's go to the next one, because the next one is my favorite. Is the first reform that he puts there, he writes in there to bring down this deep state, is the formation of a church committee to end the abuses by the CIA. That is why I say every single person, whether target, because do not be mistaken, this was going to be rolled out to everybody. And that's one of the things that I have with the whole Stargate program and the drones and we can talk about that in another program. But this, with the nanotechnology in the vaccines and in the dental anesthetics, for example, it was going to be rolled. The mind control was going to be rolled, and the subliminal messaging that goes on 24/7 with the cell towers this was rolled out to the entire population. So when he says here, this is the number one thing that needs to be done to defeat the deep state is to form this committee. So what I think is that when President Trump issued the executive order on investigating the weaponization of the government, what he is really going for is for a recommendation both from Pam Bondi and from Tulsi Gabbard saying this needs to be thoroughly investigated by Congress and then expose everything, because I think they have 45 days to do this. They're not obviously going to get to the bottom of it by themselves. There has to be a lot of and then you have the Havana syndrome component, which, as you know, the CIA has been hiding the truth about it. They're saying, oh, no, it's not a foreigner. Oh, but we can't give you any information because it's them doing it. It's them attacking Americans' brains with directed energy weapons, and they don't want to admit it to anybody. But now the circle has closed. It's like they really don't. And now with Ratcliffe, he said, I'm going to get to the bottom of it, and I'm going to be open about it. So that's another part of the jigsaw puzzle, which is these people are not just being part of this abuses by a weaponized government, but they're having permanent brain damage as a result of it. And I tell you, it's a silent epidemic in this nation. Just as, everything that's happening with the mRNA and the genetic and the blood clots and the instant deaths, the problem, because here we have children that have been diagnosed with Havana syndrome because they are the children of targeted federal employees. I don't know if you know, Dr. Lambert started a civilian registry for Havana syndrome because the federal government refuses to acknowledge that there are civilians, even though Dr. Lambert is the first civilian that was diagnosed by Dr. Hoffer. So we are trying to grow that registry in order to demand that Congress investigate this silent epidemic.
Wow. There's so much going on, and the work of Dr. Lambert is just fantastic, and the fact we're going to be presenting at a Congress for forensic medicine, and that he's able to present this data and it's getting out there and it's getting into academia, that's absolutely fantastic. What do you think, Richard, about this aspect of Mr. Patel and all of these wonderful new developments?
Well, I'm very anxious to see Mr. Patel be allowed to get to work and bring in. In my opinion, the FBI needs to be gutted, and the top 3 or 4 levels there need to be completely dismissed and brought in with people that are truly loyal to the Constitution. And it's my hope and action that will happen. It's absolutely a high priority.
I want to mention today something happened. I think it was last night. that concept with that he needs to gut, especially the loyalists to Christopher Wray. Last night, a cop shot and killed a person that was a J6er that had been pardoned by President Trump last week. And the reason that happened was because he got a silent hit and he stopped him. There was a traffic stop because all of the people in the terrorist screening database, handling codes 3 and 4, the cops get a silent hit, and they stop them. And so it became bad, it became like there was an argument or something. And so the cop, this man just walked out of jail last week and just only to be shot. So Mr. Patel has to absolutely immediately eliminate handling codes 3 and 4 of the terrorist screening database that the FBI has admitted under penalty of perjury contain the names of people that do not meet the reasonable suspicion criteria, are put there under secret criteria, and do not represent a threat to national security, because it is going to that is the list that they sent to the Space Force to fire the electromagnetic weapons ad and share through the National Crime Information Center to have cops and sheriffs stop people that should not be stopped and should not be harassed.
Wow. Yes.
Let's go. I think that's, I don't know if I have another slide. What freedom of speech. This is huge. Let's go to, that there was a huge case called Missouri versus Biden, where it started in Louisiana, and the judge gave really great injunctive orders against the FBI, because this derived from the Twitter files. You know how FBI was in there monitoring and censoring speech. Well, when it went to the Fifth Circuit, it got a little, had less coverage, the injunction. And when it got to the Supreme Court just reversed it. So this is great, because it is the policy of the United States to secure the right of the American people to engage in constitutionally protected speech. And that includes no federal government officer, employee, or agent can interfere with that free speech. This is good. It's that no taxpayer resources are used to engage in facilitate the conduct that would unconstitutionally abridge the free speech. Now, I don't know if this taxpayer resources include, for example, as you know, many medical doctors that have spoken against COVID, like Dr. Sally Priester from our board, have been imposed either procedures, like ethic procedures, or like her, she was imposed a gag order. So I think that under the C is no taxpayer resources, because many of these state boards are also financed through federal money. So that's one aspect that I think would be really important because I know in Washington State, there's 2 doctors right now facing a licensing board, like revoking of their license, because they expressed their opinion regarding COVID-related matters. So that's one thing. And definitely targeted individuals see their social media accounts constantly hacked, closed, eliminated, and this is one thing that should I'm going to tell you, since President Trump signed this order, I have over 150 more followers in Twitter and that would have taken me a year to get. You see what I mean? So it's very noticeable that the FBI still has its claws in there, and the intelligence community, but they're walking away little by little, and I think this is just great for everybody.
Sorry. How does this relate, particularly for the medical boards, for example, these doctors that were literally targeted by official means, and I still think that we need prosecutions for genocide. Do you think that any of the free speech aspects will open also a pathway towards some justice to happen in regards to that?
Well, I really think right now, for example, Dr. Sally Priester has an open case in the First Circuit Court of Appeals, and if she doesn't prevail, I know she's going to the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court has to express itself in this regard. Doctors cannot be silenced because they have an oath to and a duty to their patients. And the 500-page report from Congress explains it very clearly that many doctors betrayed that duty. So I think that even though Fauci was pardoned, I don't think that's the end of it. I think RFK is looking into the reversal of the absolute immunity, so that to the pharmaceutical companies, so that there can be a product liability, major actions against these for the genocide that has happened knowingly, because they hid evidence. And I think I really believe that they got their immunity by hiding evidence of deaths, hiding evidence of heart failures. So then there's fraud there involved. So I think that is sufficient to revoke that congressional immunity that was granted to them, because it was granted on false premises. See? So that's one of the things. And then these boards that I know these two doctors in Washington State are facing, it's in the Ninth Circuit right now. There is a doctor in Texas also that is being facing a persecution by the state board. I think that if they can look into if these state boards obtain federal funds and federal money, I think that would be one good way to say, no, wait, you cannot curtail my free speech because you receive, and I am absolutely certain of that, because I know at least the Puerto Rico one receives billions from the United States. It wouldn't operate without the money from the United States. So I know that in that sense, it applies. I don't know about the ones in Washington State.
Very interesting. Richard, do you have any comments regarding these back doors for the criminals?
Yeah, let me add to what Anna said. In general, in immunity, and I'm not a lawyer, but in general, when you're granted immunity, a corporation, or, for example, your public utilities, and everybody has to use a public utility, whether it's gas service or electric service, there's somebody that has to read the meter. So everybody in America knows about a monopoly-based utility, and they're granted some level of immunity, just like these big corporations are. The red line that they're not allowed to cross is fraud and gross negligence. And for a medical doctor or pharmaceutical company, that's what their liability insurance doesn't cover, and that's very important. So if some liability insurance for errors and omissions, it's not covered by fraud or gross negligence. And so at the state level, what I think we're going to expect to see is, even though Fauci got a pardon at the federal level, the states have also that were broken. And fraud and gross negligence are not covered by immunity. So I think it's going to be very easy to tear those down and prosecute Fauci and all the people that work with him.
That would be wonderful. My concern is, we've seen so many judges who just throw out these cases. All of the COVID cases have been just dismissed. The evidence of my research was part of the mandamus and multiple other legal filings, by example, by Dr. Sansone. And the same judges now, will they uphold the law when before it just seemed like they were supporting what these deep state players wanted to? Do you think that just because the political leadership changed, will the opinion of the judges change?
I think.
Well, that's
okay. You go for it, because
I think that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question, and I think that they're going to get pressure from a different side, and I think we'll start to see some of these cases roll forward.
And also, I think that if President Trump is successful at gutting the deep state, justice is going to start to shine again. And I think, a lot of these judges, I think that they are understandably afraid, some of them, because these people were very, very, their power was unhinged. And I think that we're going to start seeing, just like I think it was last Friday, that we had that amazing, it's a 60-page decision on FISA. That would not, I can tell you, I can absolutely assure you that that decision would not have happened if President Trump had not won. I don't know if Richard agrees with me, but I totally believe that. Absolutely.
It's amazing that our
It's
legal system
unfortunate
is.
that our judicial system.
Go ahead. It's so politically
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
influenced.
Yeah, well, I think that many, even judges, are afraid of this program, Anna. This destroys lives. These people, even if they have a tenure, Article 3 judges, these government criminals that run this show are very, they were unhinged. Their power was seen as limitless. Like, I think it was Senator Schumer said that, if you cross them, they have 6 days from Sunday to make your life miserable, or something like that, he said. Anyways, the cartels, this is very important. And I'll let Richard talk about it, designating cartels and other organizations as terrorist organizations, and because this allows the United States to pretty much take over their funds. And so I'll let Richard talk about it, because he knows about the CIA use of drug money to finance their criminality.
Yeah, this is an important point. Cutting off funding for the CIA's illegal operations. So back in the 1980s, there's a journalist named Gary Webb that started to put together the pieces of the puzzle that showed how the CIA was running all the drug cartels in Central and South America, and they ended up murdering him. But it led to a number of journalistic reports showing how the CIA controls 80% of the world's illegal drug trade. It is truly stunning, the level of corruption in that agency. That they've estimated the amount is about $200 billion a year that the CIA then uses for all of their illegal operations, gun running, supporting Contras and illegal operations and coups in foreign countries all over the world, as well as in the United States. One of the ways to shut down the CIA is cut off their money. So by designating these drug cartels as terrorist organizations, it gives the Federal Trade Commission and banking the right to go in and confiscate their accounts, close their accounts, block their accounts, and confiscate their accounts. That'll go a long way. So the true drug lords in the world is actually the CIA. There's a whistleblower that said that in the Pentagon, they've got what they call a pit, which is a group of lieutenant colonel level high-ranking officers that are actually have phone calls with drug lords on a daily basis. And that's who the drug lords work for. They actually work for contacts in the Pentagon. That's how egregious it is.
Oh my God.
That's why you have that Brennan guy all upset. He's throwing a fit because of Tulsi's confirmation today. I don't know if you saw him today in the news, but he's just throwing a fit because, of course. And then I think one of the influencers said, this is a good sign that she needs to get confirmed, just because he's throwing a fit. The former director.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he just says. It's persons threaten to commit or support terrorism. Let's go. Yeah, they can no longer use the cartel money. In the homepage of Targeted Justice, we have the civilian registry document, and we just need for people to get active. We're trying to inspire the community to get active and demand from their congressperson that civilians are made part of the Havana Act, and they are also given medical care and taken care of. I wanted to point out one thing that happened this past year, which was very, very interesting, is that for the first time ever, Mr. Said, he represents federal employees that have Havana syndrome. Well, he compared the pain that one of his clients that has been denied, she's clearly a targeted individual, that has been denied benefits. He described episodes of 20 minutes of pain comparable to giving birth. And so you and I know that you'd never compare a headache to giving birth, right? So this is, it's just God. These criminals targeted the wrong people, and it got out of hand, and now it's time to stop. So yeah, we're gonna that's one of the things we want to do this year, to have the community be very active, demanding from their congressperson that civilians are included in the epidemiological studies of Havana syndrome and in the benefits for it too. That one that's what I was talking to you about, that we worked on very hard, and it's basically a proposal. Once the investigation on the intelligence communities, this is when it starts to be uncovered, the kind of investigations, the kind of reparations, the kind of medical treatment and facilities that need to be provided to people, for victims of this atrocious program, because it's not just physical. It's, as you know, it's very emotional too, and psychological. So it's going to take many decades to heal, and we prepared that with Dr. Bear and Richard and myself. We prepared it with a lot of love and passion, hoping that, again, every single TI make sure they get a copy to their congressperson, and they start looking into, okay, we have to pick up the pieces and move forward with this.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for doing that.
Well, these are the pending actions we have. The Department of Justice has dragged its feet producing, these are 3 FOIA litigations. One of them, we're asking for the list of the dead people that have been removed from handling codes 3 and 4. Dead people don't have right to privacy, and they cannot say it's a terrorist threat because they're dead, right? So they have been doing everything they can to not give us the information. That's pending. It's been pending for months. The second one, it's the exceptions that the Attorney General applies when putting people on the list without reasonable suspicion. They are denying it. They don't want to give it because it's an admission of their malfeasance. And it is a shame that the Department of Justice, that is supposed to defend and enforce civil rights for people, is the first one that is protecting the criminality by the FBI. And that's what we're trying to expose, their criminality. And the third one is against the Inspector General, because since 2007, they had not carried out a single audit of the Terrorist Screening Center, even though that last audit reflected a lot of atrocious practices, like including innocent people on the list, and without sufficient vetting. So after 2007, it was, don't touch that, don't look this way again. And it all makes sense, because they needed the Inspector General to look the other way it's like one time I asked Richard, I said, you know what's really weird? I read all these audit reports, right? And Mr. Timothy Grove from the Terrorist Screening Center had said once, well, there's two categories that we put them there for immigration purposes and without meeting the terrorist criteria. But when you look at the reports, you don't see that immigration thing, and that and what he said, it's not there. So I'm like, well, why? And it's because it's the list. It's the blacklist for the roster for the human experimentation program that never really ended. So yeah, that's the third one that we have pending. We're looking forward to filing addition once the Department of Justice gets gutted and new people come in. I think that'll be the appropriate time to file additional cases. But until that happens, I personally would exercise restraint, because we need for the new people to get into their positions. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
And I think the next one, that's it. Yeah, we're trying to get digital warriors. I'm going to be doing a podcast on that digital warrior campaign. And it's basically, you know how it is, that sometimes, targeted individuals they cannot convey in a very cohesive or credible way what's going on. And I want to train some of these people that are good communicators to start raising awareness beyond our community, because we don't need to preach to the choir. We know what goes on. We need to reach those people that are outside of our frontiers, because once those people find out about the atrocities that the intelligence community have perpetrated on targeted individuals, their children and their pets, and people around the world, because it's not just in the United States. Richard's experience is that outside of the United States, the torture is even worse. And it is a silent Holocaust, and we need to very cohesively, intelligently, and compassionately explain it to people without going into my brain is being uploaded to a cloud, because they don't understand that. We have to do it in a way that doesn't scare them. That's my opinion, and we want to engage people into like, for example, the work you do, which is so priceless. It's like you are getting self-assembling nanotechnology in your body, and here's the scientific proof of it. That's what we need to convey, and guess what? There's a purpose for it. It's not just because they had surplus nanotechnology that they had to shove into a you know what I mean? There is a reason for it. And then, the three of us can privately talk about like atrocious things that these people are going to do. But when we want to red pill people that have never heard of this, I think that the best tactic is to do it, in very small steps. That's at least, if we want people to call Congress and say, you have to end this atrocity, we need to convince them in ways that they can understand and relate to.
Absolutely. Richard, what are your thoughts about all of this, that you might want to add?
Well, yeah, I'll echo Anna's statements that we need to start putting pieces together for congressmen and senators and the agencies to understand the level of corruption that's been going on for decades, and make sure that these programs get shut down and never restarted again. We've got to cut off these illegal treaties that were signed with foreign governments all over the world under the guise of science. And all it is, it's the Terrorist Screening Center blacklist being distributed worldwide to other countries. But they signed these illegal treaties. The U.S. Senate never had the opportunity to approve them, unaware that these treaties even exist. But the Constitution mandates that any treaty signed with a foreign government has to be approved by the U.S. Senate. And they're simply skirting it. They're going right around it and letting the FBI and the DHS negotiate these treaties and sign them and just run forward with them. With more than 60 countries have signed these treaties, and they're grossly illegal. It's got to stop.
I have another question. I have some targeted individuals who come to me from other continents, and they are obviously not in the US database, but yet they're experiencing targeting in the United States. How does that work?
The tracking, once your name appears on the terrorist screening database, it doesn't segregate you by country. The tracking coordinates, for example, at the Space Force, everybody's head is tracked. All three of us, if you put a Gauss meter, you would find that the top of your head has an electromagnetic signature on it that should not be there. And anyone that's from another country that came to the United States, they don't care who you are. The entire list exists without borders or boundaries. You exist not as a name, but as a number in the TSDB database, and you have GPS that are updated at least once a second. And there is no segregation or borders as far as the Space Force is concerned. They track you wherever you are. They assign locals, are assigned based on your GPS coordinates. You get assigned to a fusion center that takes care of your harassment and stalking.
And, obviously Space Force is part of the military. And, I've seen military personnel also that has experienced, evidence of targeting, or, the retired, for example. But the orders that we discussed, they were mainly for the intelligence community. And you're discussing Space Force. I mean, will this help the program, or do there have to be other orders that would also include the military?
Well, I have to say that the Space Force gets constantly 24/7 the TSDB from the FBI. So that's who they know. That's how they know who to target. So when this list no longer exists, of course, Richard has to talk to you about the Mars database, which I don't know if what they're going to do is, once this is shut down, then they'll morph it into something else, and we have to make sure that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the former general in charge of the Space Force had special meetings with FBI Director Chris Wray a few years ago, specifically to set up a transfer of a daily transfer between the FBI's terrorist screening database and the military's new database called Mars, and it stands for it's simply a database. It has nothing to do with the planet Mars, but it is a second backup database that contains all the names in the terrorist screening database. So now every one of us are considered a military target. That's basically what that transfer means. And that database became fully operational last year. So now we're going to have to shut it down at TSDB and make sure that this military database doesn't continue whatever gets shut down in the FBI. So we're going to have to follow up on that.
Wow. Fantastic information. A lot of hope, but it also sounds like there's still a lot of work ahead, and a lot of work in terms of bringing awareness and continuing to ask for the shutdown of the program on all of its levels. So I think that, the work of targeted justice is just so important, and also, what Dr. Lambert has been doing. And so thank you so much for everything, because to me, and I've been saying this for some time, it is about the targeted community, but you are really the forefront fighters for humanity, because the technocratic plan of the Orwellian state of the one world order is about, complete global control and to basically enslave the entire global population in this way. And so this fight cannot be expressed as more important for every single human being. It is not just about the targeting community. This is what people need to understand. Everyone needs to take an interest in this and understand it, because this is a testing ground for something even more diabolical on a larger scale. It has to be stopped.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you that some of the stories, you said the word diabolical. Some of the stories I hear from people that are targeted are so horrible that you could not imagine them, even if you saw them like in a terror movie. And we have to, I think there has to be a renaissance of humanity. And I don't know if we're too late. Maybe, I don't know if you have any optimism in this, but we need to bring back love, compassion, and all those precepts that are just, basic. That normally we're born like that, and then people just forget them or unlearn them. You know what I mean? So it is my hope that once this is shut down, that's when the real work begins. And we're counting, your work is just so priceless, because you have done incredible research on Morgellons, for example, and like Richard says, he really believes that that's one of the big keys to the program, because it's undeniable, and because it's just, but of course everybody gets gaslighted with it. And so that's when the work is going to really begin, when the weapons are shut down. It's like after a war or after a hurricane, cleaning up after the disaster.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for both of you. And we'll have to invite you soon again, because there's lots to talk about, and so that you can keep us all updated.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, both of you.
Hello, my name is Dr. Anna Maria Mihalcea. I am an internal medicine physician with a PhD in pathology and 20 years of clinical experience. I've written a book that's called Light Medicine, A New Paradigm, The Science of Light, Spirit, and Longevity. I have explained to the world a new model of medicine in which we understand that we are biophotonic beings of light, and that if we address this model in our approach to health, that we can significantly help people. I am also the founder of the company True Blue Medical that creates beautiful blue light wellness wraps that are utilizing this principle. What's been shown is that blue light in itself has significant healing properties. For example, it increases the production of nitric oxide in the skin, which will increase the blood flow to certain areas. It's been studied that nitric oxide can stimulate the endorphin receptors, so this can also help with pain relief in a very natural form. And you have to understand that blue light has been used in optogenetics to control all aspects of the cell cycle. So we can restore, in a way, health that the regular scientific model hasn't quite thought about. So unlike infrared lights, blue light does not generate heat. And our skin absorbs biophotons and can store these as energy for healing purposes. What we have found with our beautiful wraps is that our customers have wonderful improvements in their well-being.
I slipped on the wet hose, rolled over my ankle, and broke it. But in my mind, it was a sprain. And so I went in and I wrapped my ankle. I walked on a broken ankle for 9 days. And I think the only reason I could do that is that wrap kept the swelling down and accelerated healing in a way nothing else I've tried has done.
I had a very painful hernia problem about a month ago. Dr. Anna recommended trying the True Blue Light Wrap. I wore it for 3 days and nights, 24/7, and the pain dwindled away completely. Since then, I've used the Blue Light Wrap on my back for back pain, and I've used it for headaches and migraines.
I damaged my knee but I had a definite noticeable improvement immediately using the True Blue wrap. It helped directly with the pain, the swelling, and it also improved range of motion starting the first night. I know that healing this type of an injury can take months to happen, even with medical intervention, but with the True Blue medical wrap, I saw daily improvement.
At 71 years old, my life is full of adventures. Sometimes accidents happen during those adventures, and now I seem to have made myself arthritic. I got my blue light wrap pretty fast, and I wear it most of the time. It works, and I love those little blue lights.
Thank you for watching this episode of Truth, Science, and Spirit with Dr. Anna Mihalcea. If you would like to learn more about my research, you can find it on my Substack, and that is Anna Mihalcea, MD, PhD.substack.com. If you would like to find out more about my book that has won 3 different awards in the category of alternative medicine, called Light Medicine, A New Paradigm, The Science of Light, Spirit, and Longevity. You can find that at arthemasophiapublishing.com. If you're interested in the True Blue Medical Blue Light Wellness Wraps, of which I am the founder, you can find this at truebluemedical.com. Also, if you are interested in becoming a patient or in the Goliath laser, you can contact AM Medical LLC, my clinic, and the website is ammedicalmd.com. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.